So I'm in the back garden today, lots of lovely winter salads to sow and some green garlic, and just taking advantage of every interval between the showers. So I've got a few things to plant in the back garden. I've got these couple of trays of corn salad, some miner's lettuce, and a few straggly onions and things, and of course plenty of garlic. So I've got all these spare containers that had the potatoes in them, and I've got quite a few more down the end there, some of them still to be harvested. And I like to just use this spent potato compost for mulching my beds, and I'll just use fresh compost next year. And the only downside obviously is you will end up with a few potatoes coming up in your beds, but anyway, it's no massive deal. Just weed those out. So I'm just putting the corn salad or lamb's lettuce into this bed. Quite close because the plants are quite small. I like to dib the holes when I'm doing a lot like this. I'd normally just use my fingers, but it's quite a big job with fingers when you're doing, I think there's about 60 holes here, something like that. And that gets a bit tiresome. And my dibber is made just the size, so I've cut it off at the right length, so it's just the size of a standard module. And we really like corn salad. It's one of the few things that you can really successfully grow outside here. And so it's ready in February, like January and February, which is just the time really when our other lettuces are kind of coming or stalling in growth. So we just need a little bit to top us up. And we do grow a lettuce bed just for that purpose, which we'll harvest as full heads. But the corn salad is really lovely. It's a really lovely mild lettuce. Needs a bit of cleaning, but yeah, I really like it. It's very tasty, and it looks really lovely as well in the salad mixes. So I'm quite pleased to be getting it planted. So these plants were sown 19th of August, and I think that was about perfect timing for them. And so I'm really happy with the way they've come on. The only issue is a few of them have started to get a little bit of downy mildew on the leaves, and that is an issue. They really don't want to be inside. They want to be outside, and then you won't get any problems. But if you put these in a polytunnel, for example, or a cold frame, then you'd almost certainly get some sort of mildew. They want a lot of air circulation on them. They like to be nice and wet. And whatever the weather throws at them, they kind of like that. So I'm just looking out for any plants that have got a little bit of an issue, and I will not plant those. So that once I've done this, I'm going to do the miner's lettuce, and that's a lovely complement as well. Another one of the few things that you can really sow outside. If you look at the seed packet for these, it tells you that you can sow them in early spring and harvest them in late spring. They're very slow growing, but I would not recommend you do that, because that's the time when they're going to run to seed, and they grow. Once they decide they're going to go to seed, they seed really quickly. And of course, you don't want them to drop seed everywhere as well, which is another problem. But they're just nowhere near as nice once they've started to go to seed. So I really recommend that you stick to using them as a winter lettuce. That's what they're best for. And there are just so many choices of amazing salad greens for the rest of the year. And one of the issues with these is, you know, they're small. So when you are harvesting them, they take a lot of time to harvest and clean up. And they do need a bit of cleaning up because they'll always have bits of soil on them and all that sort of thing. So we just had a jet flying over. So I just skipped over that bit of the video. Now when you're harvesting these, you will find some YouTube videos and things saying that you can harvest the leaves, just like snip the leaves off, leave the growing tip, and then they'll regrow. But as I said, they're really slow growing, and by the time these are ready for harvest, as I said, you know, they'll be pretty much ready to start running to seed, and they'll probably run to seed about the time that they're ready for harvest the next time. And it's just such a lot of hassle. They're just not worth it. It's just much easier to snip them off at the base and leave the roots in the ground, and by the time you come to replant, those roots will have gone, won't get in the way of anything. So yeah, that's kind of it. So I'm just going to pop them in, just 2 fingers like that, just gently firm them in. There's no need to push them in really hard. The roots will find their way, especially in this weather. We've got a lot of rain coming. This is just a very brief interlude between heavy showers. So I thought I'd just get this done. They're going to enjoy this, it'll settle them in nicely. So obviously we grow a lot of things in addition to corn salad over winter, and what makes it remarkable is really only that it's got this lovely mild taste, slightly nutty some people say, and that it's extremely hardy. If it was an exposed location, it would benefit from a little bit of cover, not a cloche, but just a little bit of netting. But here, where we are in this garden, it's, you know, fairly sheltered, so it's just fine as it is. So it took me 3 attempts in between rain showers, but I finally got this planted. And one of the things I like about them is that they are just such a pretty little plant, and I'll just give you the close-up on these just to show you just how lovely they are. And so they really do, you know, make a back garden just look, you know, really pretty. It's miner's lettuce, and it doesn't look much at the moment, but these grow into really big clumps of just the most amazing, like crunchy, succulent little lettuce leaves, and I really love them. The only downside to them is that when you're harvesting them, they are a little bit sort of messy, and so we tend to pick them in like a little bunch like that and eat them as a bunch rather than as individual leaves, because the individual leaves are quite small. So anyway, that's the way we do them. They're nice in smoothies as well, but you know, they're really nice in lettuce, but as I say, just keep them in a little bunch and they're much easier to eat. So they'll look a little bit uninspiring in the bed at the moment, but they will grow into nice big clumps, a bit like the salad rocket there and the ERBA STELLA there, you know, which has now grown to fill out the bed and was basically planted at the same density. Although this is interplanted with garlic, so that will be coming up soon, and it'll just push through in between those leaves. So I just filled in all the gaps there with corn salad, and so this will all be harvested by March, which is just perfect timing for the early lettuce beds to start being planted, and the same with this. Radicchio will also be gone by then, so lots more lettuce to go in here in March, and we gradually work our way through these beds, replanting as we work our way into spring. So these tubs were my tumbler outdoor tomatoes. We plant those about, well, June basically, so early June, depends on the weather exactly when we'll plant them. But the key thing is that that is just perfect timing again for garlic, and I'm not exactly sure how many I'm going to get in there, but I should think I shall get about 10 plants in there. We can thin some of that out and take it as green garlic, and I'm gradually filling out all of my containers. These have just got turnips in at the moment. So I've just got 5 bulbs there, and I think I'll just go with 1 bulb per container. I'll just lay them out on the top so you can get an idea of the density that I'm putting them in. And there is almost perfectly 1 bulb per container there. And I'm going to push them in quite deep, a couple of inches, maybe 3 inches down. And that's because I don't want them to get pushed out, the roots to push them out when through frost heave, completed multiple cycles of freezing and thawing tend to push the cloves out of the soil. So I'm really happy with that, and I will not reuse this compost for tomatoes next year. This will just be used to mulch the beds. And the sun's come out again. Anyway, I think we're all done. My name's Steve, this is the Seaside Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.